I see my role not as just, okay, now I just get to manage everybody, but it's like take on the next big challenge, take on the next big, now we're working on a particularly thorny governance project with families and staffing. And so that's what then I get in there and I get to build it out and I bring my team members along and then we're all learning together and then they can take that on in the next project. And so when I think about scale and success for us, it's not that I'm not doing the work because frankly, that's not going to fulfill me. I love this. I love people. I love being engaged in this way. And so it's really about just, for me, success is like having the space to continue to innovate and think about what's next, not necessarily for us, but for our clients.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Regin, and today's guest is Julie Hoffman, a philanthropy advisor, executive coach, and capacity builder who has spent more than 2 decades helping families and organizations create lasting impact through giving. She's the founder and CEO of JH Philanthropy, where she partners with high-capacity families to align their values with their charitable vision, navigate complex family and board dynamics, and bring joy, clarity, and purpose to their philanthropy. Julie's career includes leadership roles as CEO of the New Coast Foundation, a founding managing director at A Better Chicago, and leader of the Illinois chapter of America Needs You, along with service in Peace Corps in Peru. And it's a pleasure for me to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Julie.
Thank you, Regin. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So I wanted to learn more about your beginnings as a coach. So actually focusing more on both areas, both philanthropy and executive coaches, just like we mentioned on the intro. Our podcast is focused more on coaching. So I wanted to ask you, when it comes to the coaching side of it, what inspired you to become an executive coach and do this as a business too?
Well, so I definitely did not set out to become a coach. I'd say that what has inspired me really since college and helped bring me to the Peace Corps was really helping to understand and identify what helps tap somebody's soul on fire, what brings somebody to life, and really helping them to tap into their true potential and take advantage of all that life has to offer. I'll say that coming out of college and going into the Peace Corps, that was a lot of naivete in a sense of thinking, well, we can not thinking about a lot of the cultural and gender, other challenges that we'll really work through. But really, it's about helping people to tap into what motivates them. So now my path has grown out of really years of advising families through transitions, through wealth transfers, next generation engagement, governance matters, and identifying and engaging in nonprofits that really are achieving the goals that they set out for themselves. And in this work, I saw that the technical side, all the wealth transfer information and estate planning and setting up a foundation or a donor advised fund, that's covered. But there was a lack of knowledge and focus on creating space for the human side of all of this, the identity, the purpose, and the legacy. So coaching has really become the way that I can hold that space for individuals going through these wealth transfers in many cases.
Interesting. And so that is an interesting focus. And so right now, when working with these leaders, these executives, and going through the coaching journey with them, what about it do you find most rewarding?
Oh, so much. I'd be lying if I didn't say, first of all, it's just like hearing what people want to tackle. And I'm sure we'll talk about the scaling of the business and how do you grow, but one of my biggest challenges is that I might be full, and then you meet somebody and then they say, oh, I really would love help tapping into this, engaging my kids in philanthropy, or really helping me to really come into my own as a civic leader. And you're like, oh yes, I want to do that. We can do that together. So the first is just understanding the complexity of human being and helping them to see themselves in ways that they might not. But then the second is most definitely the breakthroughs, right? When a client realizes they can align their wealth with their values, or trustee starts leading authentically, or next gen wealth inheritor really feels permission to give differently than their parents and have those tough conversations, like those ripple effects, incredible, both for that individual, but then families and the communities and the organizations that they serve.
And if we want to dive dive a little bit deeper into the ideal client profile for you, how would you describe it? Is there a certain industry, demographic, psychographic? Do they have
Sure.
some common goals or other commonalities that you're
Yeah.
seeing?
So we work with typically what we call high capacity and generous donors. So it's families, foundations, or leaders of foundations that are in transition. So that transition can be you're moving from overwhelm to clarity, or from reactivity to being more proactive, or importantly, from being principal donor to now wanting to engage the rest of somebody's family in that work. And so the folks that we're working with and that we have both the most success with and resonate the most with are people who are really looking at how do wealth, legacy, and purpose come together in these complicated ways and really move from, again, calling it reactivity to really strategy and meaning.
And how is the engagement they have with you? Do they go through some sort of program of certain length? Is it one-on-one coaching, group coaching?
Yeah.
How would you describe that?
So I know the focus of this podcast is really about coaching, and we toe the line of advising, consulting, and coaching. So very often folks come to us and there's a reason that they're coming. There is a point of transition. They're preparing for a wealth transfer. They are a trustee of a foundation and they are getting ready, things that maybe aren't working out well with the team and they want some more alignment, or there's a reason, or a new donor advised fund hasn't created. And so somebody is looking for that. So first it comes up with strategy, really of the why, what's, and how are they doing their philanthropy. And so that can be both individual and for a family or a privately held company. But very often after we've built out that strategy, then we move into coaching and advising, so that if we are not running the philanthropy for that family or institution, maybe they've identified a family member who now is leading that work, or the CEO of the foundation is leading it. So then we're serving as a coach. I'm serving, and my team serving as coaches to really help them go to that next level. And so that's usually a 6-month minimum retainer partnership where we're working through goals. And we tend to work with people for a longer period of time because we become a trusted advisor.
And what is the usual length of time they work with you, if you were to describe that?
We have everything from a bespoke one-time engagement for 6 months, but most of our clients are working with us from different iterations for 3 to 5 years. And that's because everything is cyclical. It's not the same thing that we're working through. And particularly when you're working with a leader in a foundation or a company, we might be brought in to work with that leader at that time. And then the philanthropists, the trustees, or the senior leadership then want to work on a bigger strategy idea. And then we're working through that transition. So it can be, it's not just working with one person each time.
And it all depends, I believe, on the person that you're working with and the type of help they need.
Absolutely. And that's a really important distinction. So while we might work with clients for multiple years, we don't start out with that expectation. We always start with really a 3 to 6 month engagement because we all need to see what it's like to work together. And I have learned in this work is that people really need to be ready to ask the tough questions, get uncomfortable, be willing to change. And so if you're given that we are talking about wealth and positions of power, formal or informal, we need people who will rest with us, help to understand what is the role that they want to play in the world and how do they do that with care and humility and an interest, rather than coming in as the savior that's going to save everything, right? Because they have the money. And so we have started with some clients and then decided together that really they're not ready to do the hard work and step into it. And so that's okay. And we can refer them to other folks, but we really tend to attract and work best with folks who are ready to do the hard work.
And this is a question that other coaches are going to find interesting, is when it comes to you finding these clients or them finding you, is there a certain marketing channel that you see working really well?
So that's interesting. I've been in this business with JH Philanthropy for coming up on 6 years now. And the reality is most of it is through word of mouth, which is not the easiest it's not the right model to be able to share with everybody. But that really is what I learned from the very beginning is do great work. Do great work and figure out what your niche is, figure out what you both have a specific value in, where there is need, and how do you bring those together. And that great work and community kind of begets itself and other people come along. So now we also, because we're in a lot of the family office community and family foundation, there are networks within there. So we get referrals from the National Center on Family Philanthropy, Family Office Exchange, other organizations like that. This year, we're attempting to do more, putting ourselves out there. We have a newsletter, a blog. I'm attempting to put myself out there more with writing and speaking. So thank you for this opportunity to continue to build that muscle, because as our team grows, also, it's important that it's not all just coming from my relationships, but it is people who hear of the work more broadly that we do it. And it's not just about what is Julie doing, but the great work of the JH Philanthropy team.
Cool. And so it makes sense actually for a lot of coaches, it is referrals, and it is a good sign. It means that coaching is working very well, that they're happy that they're willing to refer other people to you. But looking into the future, going away from marketing, looking to the future for the next 1 to 3 years, do you have any specific business goals that you're working towards?
Oh, so many. I'd say that the first phase of JH Philanthropy was really about figuring out what we do and how we do it. I'd say even when I was hiring and in our work with folks, it was really, our first 2 years, even for our clients, like, okay, we're getting started. And we came from doing the work, and now I was moving into actually consulting and advising on the work. So there was some tests and figuring it out together. This next phase of JH Philanthropy is really about how do we codify the methodologies, really train others in the way that we do this work, and continuing to really deepen the way that families and institutions engage with philanthropy as a tool for purpose and not just obligation. So, on the business side of things, it's really about figuring out what our greatest operating principles, everything from our values to what does it mean to be an advisor with our company, how do we show up for our clients, and most importantly for the communities that they serve. But then on the work that we do side, it's really about helping people move from transactional giving to building a shared vision that reflects their values and creates lasting impact, and figuring out how to do that in a way that is still bespoke, highly impactful, and identifying if there are tools or frameworks that can reach more people. I think everyone talks about scaling, and I don't know. Scaling is important, but this doesn't need to be a huge business for me. It is really about having impact, being a great employer, impact in the community, and building really strong, lasting relationships. And if we get too big, we're not going to really be able to do that, I don't think. And so it's really about growing methodically for us.
And right now, when you think about your company, do you have a specific team structure in place?
We do. So we have 5 team members right now. We're hiring our 6th philanthropy advisor right now. We have a managing director of philanthropic services who joined about a year ago, and her role is really to run our consulting and advising services. The goal being that really she and I should be interchangeable. She's actually also based in Dallas. I'm in Chicago. And then we have 2, soon to be 3 philanthropy advisors that work with us on all of our projects, such as doing as an analyst, project manager, helping really to move the projects along so that Erin, who's our managing director, and myself can really build deeper strategy engagements. Each of us take on coaching clients depending on the scope and need of the work, and they have to become very natural after a broader strategy conversation, because some folks might want to work very closely with one of our philanthropy advisors who has deep subject matter expertise in the specific grant making that they're interested in.
I do like the team structure too. And so right now, when thinking about growth and reaching out more people and scaling too, right now, where do you see the challenge or the bottleneck for you? Is it just on the marketing side, or is there other areas that you see?
No, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. It's something we really are working through. So one of the biggest things is me learning to let go, really making sure that I'm teaching and empowering my team to do this great work. And you asked before about breakthroughs, and I think about, like, people will often say, what are some of your greatest joys? And while it's absolutely the work that we do with our clients, my best days are also when my team is able to unlock that for themselves and for the clients that they're working with. That's the greatest gift, because it's like a train the trainer model, right? I can help empower my colleagues with some of these what we call heart-centered principles, nonprofit-centered philanthropy, and really ways of engaging with humility and accountability and joy with our clients. Then that's where we'll have a ripple effect. So the problem, the biggest bottleneck and challenge is kind of taking me out of all the projects. And now as we've grown, there's some clients that I work specifically with, but as we grow and people know more, as I said, more about just JH Philanthropy as a firm and not just about working with Julie, becoming a lot more possible. Because then sometimes they come in and think they really want to work with me, and I'm like, actually you don't. Like, this is Erin or Hannah or Katie, our colleague Mancha. Like, no, they're the expert in this space and you want to work with them. I'll be there and I'll advise and support, but we're going to set you at the right.
So the goal with you getting yourself away from it is so that you can focus more on working on the business as opposed to working in it.
Yes, and we see that so much. I'm in EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, and that's a big conversation that we have. Yet, I don't want to get too far away from it. So my goal is not just to be the CEO and be out selling. I really wanted to do the great work and build these relationships and continue to learn because there's still so much more to learn. And I think that when you become a subject matter expert in a space, you have to be, I heard Melody Hobson say recently, you become a learn-it-all. You can't be a generalist, know-it-all. You actually you kind of start to get really focused and you are learning it all in that base. And there's still so much more to do. I think and the space is continuing to evolve. So it's a long-winded way of saying that, yes, I need to be out of the middle of the business so that we can work on the business. But what that actually means is, yes, some marketing, but more it's about creating the systems and the space to really coach and unblock things for my team and their clients, and then also reserve my space and time for my specific clients.
Interesting. And it makes a lot of sense. Actually, when you think about scale, you have to potentially move yourself out of doing the work yourself. And it's interesting because that is kind of like what got you started, what got you inspired to begin this coaching business. And then you have to move away in order to scale. The analogy we like to use is like is with baker and opening its bakery. He's potentially not gonna bake anymore when he opens his bakery, even though he was a baker at the beginning.
Right.
He's gonna run the business.
Well, I think also that's kind of my MO. First of all, I'm an awful baker, but I'm a builder. And the work I have been involved in to date has really been about helping to identify opportunities and challenges and bringing the right solutions to them. And that was in my nonprofit and philanthropy world before them. So that's where this entrepreneurship is incredible for me. So I really feel I'm never going to just step out and not be actually still involved in the work. It just gives me space to continue to innovate. Right now, we're working with a lot of families with younger children interested in getting more involved in philanthropy. All right, now let's really build out that model and figure out how do we codify that so that we're bringing the highest value. So I see my role not as just, okay, now I just get to manage everybody, but it's like take on the next big challenge, now we're working on a particularly thorny governance project with families and staffing. And so that's what I get in there and I get to build it out and I bring my team members along and then we're all learning together and then they can take that on in the next project. And so when I think about scale and success for us, it's not that I'm not doing the work because frankly, that's not going to fulfill me. I love this. I love people. I love being engaged in this way. And so it's really about just, for me, success is like having the space to continue to innovate and think about what's next, not necessarily for us, but for our clients and what's the next best thing that we can provide for them.
Interesting. And I like that perspective as well. And so, there's two ways to think about it. Yeah, you could either go completely and work on developing the business, but you could also keep the parts of it that you like to do.
Exactly. That's the best opportunity. Yeah. Right.
Because you choose to do so, not because you have to do so, which is
exactly. And early on, one of our clients, and we work with a lot of incredible entrepreneurs. So I learn from our clients also all the time. And he said to me, like, this is exciting that your team is growing, but now one of the challenges comes that you get out there and sell and then you hand it off and they're like, wait, that's not who we hired. And then you're not in the middle of it. And I take that part, I think about that all the time because my name, because I'm not very creative in that sense, is still on the business. And so it's really about, for me, everything needs to be high value. And I want to stay involved because I love that.
Well, the good thing is just JH.
It can be anything. We tend to call it JHP now. Some people get so confused. Yes, Julie Hoffman Philanthropy. I always say, what? JH Philanthropy. So very strategic in that sense.
Beautiful. And so right now, I also wanted to talk to you about investments. It goes back to our research that I'm trying to collect data on. What have been some good investments that you've made in your coaching business? And you can think about investments of time or money or both. What were good investments and what were investments that you would have avoided if there's bad investment?
Let's see. So investments in time. First of all, I'll say I have been taught and have had the mindset, I don't have to know everything, but I have to know people who do. And that's the way I teach my team and others. So even in doing this work or building the business, I feel like I'm fortunate to have and be surrounded in Chicago by incredible social entrepreneurs, business leaders, and others who I can go to and continue to learn from. So I ask my network a lot of questions and they've been incredibly generous with me in sharing back. A couple of specific things. Early on in my business, I was trying to get through the I was kind of in like the cycle of like, okay, what do I do next? What do I do next? Because I just have so many things to do. And as I was hiring, that we were going from 2 to 3 team members, all of a sudden it was like, okay, this isn't just about what does Julie want to do today and what kind of clients does she want to take on. We're only going to be successful if I actually now start to articulate that and it becomes part of what the company is going to focus on. So I got involved with a mastermind group with Sean Blanc called Focus Like a Boss. I had learned of him. He does incredible productivity frameworks and somehow got connected with him. And he really was like, he was really looking to and continues to work with organizations and entrepreneurs. I think really around the 250K revenue, really, how do you begin to think about scaling your business in the next phase? That was transformational for me at that early stage. Then I invested in Entrepreneurs Organization. I was in EOA, the accelerator, which was for kind of earlier stage businesses also, which really helped me to learn from others about the finances, the staffing, strategy, et cetera. I did my MBA very early on in my career, and so it was really nice to come back and have that boot camp. And then when I think about subject matter expertise, P150 is a group of philanthropy advisors that I lean on a lot and learn from and contribute to. I co-lead with a couple of others at our multi-gen giving group. And then newer organization that I've gotten involved in is the Purposeful Planning Institute. And they work with family offices and in a very heart-centered way also. So what you'll notice in that is absent in that is like actually coaching certifications. And when I was getting started, and I'm sure so many of the coaches that listen to this are like, you're another one of them. And I keep thinking like, should I go back and actually do my because I didn't start out to be a coach. People started to come to me because I had been blessed with great managerial training and leadership in my career. So I started this work in philanthropy advising and consulting, and then it's morphed into coaching based on my experience. So I read a lot of books, I learn from others, but I have not done my the coaching certification. I continue to think maybe I should do that, but it hasn't been necessary just yet.
And to give some context there, we did our research, like I said, last year, and we looked into investments. So we're looking at it this year as well.
Okay.
But last year, what turned out to be the investment that had the lowest return on investment was the certification. So it's not that the certifications themselves, for the purpose that they are made, which is training as a coach, are bad. It's just that many coaches oftentimes think about them as ways that people might find them, or it might help them market it just because you add a title. That actually doesn't help at all.
Right.
So if you just needed help on training on how to do the coaching, maybe that's helpful. But yeah,
I'll tell you, I got really great advice when I was starting my business. And I didn't set out to build a business. I was running a venture philanthropy fund that I loved, and this was exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. It was working with pooling resources, investing in the community, and then partnering with the nonprofits that we were investing in. And I was serving as a coach and partner to the executive directors and really helping them to scale their organizations. And that was really just based on my past experience. That fund closed, and I was looking at a variety of different job opportunities, and really this idea of fractional philanthropy advisor and came to light. And so I thought, let me just try this. I really think that there are folks out there who want to be smart in their philanthropy, can be strategic in their work, but they don't necessarily need a full-time staff person to do it. And if I can coach others to do it, then that can expand that impact. And one of my advisors, mentors, and now client said to me, so often when people are building a business, they spend all this time on their business card and their website and saying what they're going to do. And then they're like, hey, I'm open for business. Who wants to hire me? And his guidance, he was like, just get started doing it. And I tell people this all the time. And that was the best advice for me, because it's similar to the idea of getting the certificate. It's like, just get started, try it out. I did a lot of everything in that first year, and I learned what I was uniquely good at, what I enjoyed doing, some things like some of the nonprofit fundraising consulting, which I had a skill set in, but there are a lot of great people that already do that. So I could refer people, like, what am I uniquely good at and what does the market need? And then share then say, hey, look, I'm open for business. His guidance was, we'll back up, editor. So his guidance was figure out what you are uniquely good at. What does the marketplace need? Test things, figure out your niche, and then put your marketing package together. It took me a year before I actually think, frankly, that was covered, because for a year before I had the guts to put a website together, right? To put it out there and say, this is what I'm doing. And so people knew this is what I was doing. I had, incorporated the business. It was on my LinkedIn profile and I had business, but it took about a year before I actually put a website together and then posted it and said, this is what I'm doing recruiting world. And his guidance was figure that out, post it, and then say, and I'm booked, right? So I've already built a pipeline of clients. And so that was really good advice for me. And I share that often with others.
Well, thank you so much for sharing it with us as well. I feel like it's going to be very useful for a lot of coaches. And so my final question, and brings me to my final question is, and it's about advice too. So for coaches who want to scale their impact, and you also think about you're also driven by impact. For the type of work that you do is impactful. So for coaches who want to scale their impact, is there any other advice you'd like to give to them?
I think I'd done what I was just saying, actually. So get clear on your why before chasing scale. And I tell this to our clients also when you're thinking about your own philanthropy. People will say, I need to say no. I want to learn how to say no. Well, you need to figure out what you're saying yes to and get clear on what you want to do. And then that becomes obvious what you're saying no to. So I think that growth isn't just about numbers. True impact comes from clarity of purpose, deep engagement, and continual learning. And so if you anchor in the transformation that you're here to create and stay true to that, then you're not going to dilute your impact. You'll continue to amplify it. And I think that is just so important. For me, we think about it, this isn't about just growing for growth's sake. It's really about how do we continue to share the heart-centered, joy-centered, nonprofit-centered family philanthropy guidance that we give.
Thank you so much, Julie. And thank you so much for coming to our podcast today. For anyone who wants to connect with you or find you, there's a few ways. So one of them is you can go into LinkedIn, look up Julie Hoffman. They'll be able to find your profile. They can also go into the website, jhphilanthropy.com, which is the website, if I'm not mistaken, right? Bottom of the screen here for anyone who's watching the video. But great, we'll put the link of the website into the description as well, so people can click it easily. Is there any other way besides the website, or is that
the website and LinkedIn are the best ways to get in touch with me? My team and I keep eyes on our email address that comes in from there. I think it's hello@jhphilanthropy.com. So please feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.